Thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us. Let's now look at the figures, the implications of this election for the 2027 election. I'm being joined by the Chancellor of the Athena Center, Mr. Osita Chidoka, who is equally a former aviation minister. Thanks so much, Mr. Chidoka, for your time tonight.
Thank you very much.
Last election, before the 2027 election, and Osun has always been a litmus test.
Yes.
2023 election, 2015 election, 2019 election, 2027 election, it will be another test, not only for INEC, but the entire political and electoral architecture of our country. What do you make of that conduct of Saturday?
Well, in Nigeria, bad news is always what we expect out of everything. And we always look forward to what is wrong with Nigeria. I am an eternal optimist. I critique to make for changes. So last Saturday was another example of the progress we've made in the electoral technology and conduct of our elections. And particularly at the Athena Center, we were very excited because a few things happened that happened correctly. Number one is that the competition in Osun State was intense. It was so intense that the president has to move back when EFCC interfered in the election in Osun. EFCC's intervention, gave wrong signals about how the election was going to go. But luckily, the president pulled back from that. And that created what I will call the atmosphere for the election. It created an atmosphere for the election. So there was deep competition. Second one was the technology. The technology in Osun was very, I would say that INEC performed very well in their use of the technology, because the INEC technology made it possible for everybody in the country to see what was happening in real time in the election. And so the competition was intense, the technology worked, and then the people behaved well. Because despite technology working well in some places, we've seen INEC officials and electoral officers behave badly. So, but in this particular case of Osun, the competition was very intense. So we drew 3 lessons from it, and I will come to that later. But what is important about Saturday was that technology was working, the people in the field were working, and the more important one, which is the one I think every Nigerian should be happy about, is that AI played a critical role in this election. And all of us who monitor IREV, who used to spend hours trying to get people, we used to have 300 people downloading from IREV and then entering manually. AI made it possible for us to aggregate the results in minutes. As INEC was going, you could see Yaga's ERAD was working, you could see DataFight was releasing the number, NICEA, one other group, I was watching everybody. Athena's numbers were coming in. So the ability to create what I call darkness over the election was removed. Such that before they went for collation, I issued a statement saying, no form E40G has been filed in this election. For 3,300 and something polling units were already up by INEC. So there are less than 71 polling units. So we don't expect to see anything different from the collation centers. So there was visibility across the country. Everybody had seen the result before we could even go for collation.
So this election, one would say, is an election one can describe as largely peaceful, largely credible. Is that right?
Totally. And not only largely credible, it was that INEC took 2 decisions, and I'm praying they will take the 3rd one that worked well in Osun. They started it in Ekiti. So they made it possible for the beavers to not only capture from EC8A, but to also enter the results into the e-collation platform on the EC8A. So INEC itself did a wonderful job of making their staff to fill the form and enter the numbers into the BVAS. Entering the numbers into the BVAS puts already a major safeguard. The numbers you enter cannot be more than the accredited voters. So this was particularly helpful in making sure that there is visibility of the result as we progress down the line.
However, they are concerned because the transparency in the process was also a pressure on the possibility of manipulating the process. When everybody saw, as early as 7 a.m., Young Africa's IRAD, in conjunction with China's television, was almost telling us what the patterns of the election, who was in the lead, who was winning what, the figures were already coming in. It didn't make sense for anybody to go behind and say he or she wants to rig the election because it could cause chaos. However,
yes,
the strength of that process is also its vulnerability equally,
yes,
which is the IREV.
Yes.
See what happened. 87.48%
at
of
8:48 p.m.
was uploaded.
Yes,
and that
48.
It paused.
Yes, at
for almost 2 hours.
Yes.
Now, it wasn't up to almost midnight before we start seeing
11:35.
the progress that it was coming. And Nigerians started putting pressure. And there are those who think that what happened? Do we need an explanation from INEC to tell us that lag, that 2 hours, what was happening? Did someone go to the bathroom? Did the network go down? Did the server go down? What exactly went wrong?
INEC needs to explain it. And what was interesting is that we at Athena Center, what we did immediately was to pull the 471 polling units, calculate the number of votes in those 471 units remaining. And we saw that it was not useful.
It was insignificant.
Yeah, it was insignificant. So we looked at the full registered voters in the 471. We looked at the numbers and we knew that it was a waste of time. And we applied also the voter turnout of 40 thereabout percent and said, even if 60% turns out in this 471, it's not going to change the result. So what I'm saying is that technology is now our friend. Competition is our friend. And the high number of turnouts made something very difficult in Osun. And you know what that is? It made vote buying difficult. At over 1 million voters, they were buying 10,000, 20,000 votes. So there was not enough money to buy the voters in every polling unit because it's just not operationally feasible to buy votes at a certain scale. So Nigerians must move away from sitting down and critiquing the system to going out to vote. And the Osun people taught us a new lesson. In some polling units, when they saw that the person there was answering phone call too much, they said, "We will follow you to the collation center." They followed him to the collation center. So and
not only that, you know what they did at about 11 p.m. midnight? Guess what happened? Some of them trooped to INEC headquarters.
Yes.
Fearlessly.
Yes.
They confronted the guns and the security. And I'm not one of those who will say chaos or disorderliness should be the order of the day. But they said they want to keep vigil. They said they want to see what is happening.
Yes.
So they mounted some kind of vigil outside of INEC office. And if they were screaming and yelling at INEC office, if you were rigging upstairs, you will know that your life is in danger. Because like they say, dear you rig election in Kano, you will lose your life.
You won't come out of it.
Exactly.
We know that in the whole country. And you see, the good news is this. The good news is this. And that is the very good news. The politicians who still talk about writing results and going to INEC and falsifying results are like those Africans who were kidnapping our fellow black men for slaves. They had kidnapped a number and taken them to Bonny. I want you to listen to this carefully.
I'm listening, yeah.
They have taken them to Bonny Port and to Port Harcourt to sell. They didn't know that slave trade had been abolished and that ships were patrolling the high sea, stopping slave ships from coming to Africa. So they kept the slaves. They were feeding them, no ship came. They kept feeding them, no ships came. After a few weeks, they had to release the slaves because no ships came. Reason, they didn't know the world had moved on from slave trade. Now, the people that were loitering around Osun promising that they would change the results were like those slave traders. They were sitting and waiting. They didn't know the world had moved. Yaga was already collecting the results. Athena Center was already collecting the results. Data Fight was already collecting the results. So, we knew the numbers from every ward and every polling unit. And guess what? We're going to do it in the 2027 election. So long as INEC, there is only way to rig the election in 2027 is not to conduct it. If you conduct it with this process, by 7, we at Athena Center will be giving you results state by state. How many have been uploaded and what the scores are. We will tell you that. Even if they said no technology will work that day, we will use manual system. We will put over 5,000 people on the 8,000 wards in Nigeria and be downloading it. Because you see, Nigeria just needs to make a move. We need to get out from here. We need to stop this. Election rigging is old. It's not something any leader does. Don't they feel ashamed when they meet other world leaders and you come with a tainted mandate? No, that has gone. So what we need to do now is to say that this leader is the person Nigerians want. Yes, don't quarrel with our choice. Even if you don't like him internationally, that's your business. This is our choice, who we want. So if we want to elect President Tinubu, please leave that to us. That's our choice. But to now come around and say that election results will be altered, will be done, will be changed, the president will win because he will write. Oh, no. That's old news. And I think President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has caught the spirit. When he intervened against EFCC and when the results went as planned in Osun, I knew that he has understood the game. That this game is not a game of, those people promising writing results. It is a game of those people who will go out to the people and convince them about what the government of the day has done, whether at the state level, at the local government level. And when we finish with the federal government, we will then come to the state government, state independent electoral commissions, to make sure that the people we elect are the people we want. Leave us to the consequences. When we elect and the person doesn't do what we want, we will stay with the consequences.
I mean, if you look at the 1960 and those who say, and I heard some of the leaders who are debating locally in Osun State who said to me, they said, look, Sean, in the 60s, you have heard about the WWW. Because the WWW existed before internet.
Yes.
It was in Nigeria, the Wild West. And it was around the many communities in Osun State were in the center of that uprising, of that revolution.
Correct.
Now, the idea is that there are those who are saying that Wild West is not only in south, the spirit was not only resident in southwest Nigeria, it could be resident in any part of the country where votes can be subverted, and that might be resonated or that might be resurrected in 2027. And I saw what happened. You could see how people mounted barricade in the polling unit where we covered and monitored, and we mounted our live equipment. We discovered that to gain entrance with vehicle, there was a resistance to say, look, who are you? Who is in that car? Open your boot. These are citizen, not security operatives.
Yes.
Who mounted barricade around, and you could see that they didn't go home. Some of them cooked and brought it to the polling unit. They put tent there. They put chairs there. Rented plastic chairs to say, we are going to mount vigil until this result. And we saw them. You could see them. All the young, the feeble, the strong, all of them were there. And this calls for something. And I'm going to plead with every Nigerian who has a voice, who has a platform to say, let's plead with the Nigerian people. Everyone who has a voter card to test the process.
Yes.
It's like a technology that you have not used before. This voting, it looks like the vote we count, isn't it?
Yes.
Let's test it. Let everybody come out, isn't it?
Now, what you should notice about Osun is not only the fact of what happened on election day. Prior to the election day, there was a massive registration of voters. It grew by 19% over last election, from 1.9 million to 2.3 million. So it looks like there are an engaged population in Osun. It didn't stop there. If you look at the number of votes cast from 827 or thereabout thousand in 2022, today there was about 1 million, 1,005,000 plus votes, valid votes cast. So if you look at that growth, and if you look at the turnout, if you compare that turnout to the 2.3 million, Osun is almost at 40% thereabout turnout. So you will see that there is an engaged population. An engaged population makes it difficult to rig an election. So Athena we have electoral observatory, we put out a preliminary statement. We say it is a combination of technology, deep competition that has made this possible. So there is need for people to stop sitting at home and telling us what is wrong with the election. And there is also important need for those people who do not believe in democracy in Nigeria, and there are quite a number of them in public office, who believe that subverting the will of the people is a sign of being a good politician. No, everywhere in the world, the sign of being a good politician is convincing the people why you should lead them. Not that the fact that you know how to rig elections. And they will, like I said, they will be like those slave traders of old. They will know that the ship has sailed. Yes.
So do you see surprises happen beyond the figures, beyond the numbers, in terms of how citizens choose their representatives? See what happened in the 10th National Assembly. It was a lot of surprises. A lot of people didn't return. And you see, it was a rainbow color in the National Assembly. And there are those who will say, even governors, some governors will be surprised. They won't return. Some National Assembly will be surprised. They will be shocked. Do you envisage that there will be shockers?
Well, I don't know that there will be shockers. If there are people that, of course, will not win to go back, and there are people like the last election, 2 or 3 governors couldn't make it to the Senate. But I think that we will be looking at the mood of the country as we head towards the election in November, December. Because politics is an interesting game, and it is both tribal as it is rational. People vote with their emotions. So we will, for certain, let me put it this way, if the governor of Osun was confronting another popular candidate from a third party that was not the national ruling party, maybe the election would have been different for him. But the people in Osun has made up their mind that this is now people trying to do this guy in. So his tenure was not even, there was no referendum on him. It was more or less that he has done well by our standards and we want our governor to continue. So I see a problem. I see that in 2027, people are most likely going to vote by what I consider what the variables are for them. So in some states, people are going to be voting for zoning to ensure that it remains in the zone, because after this zone, it will be our next zone. In some parts of the country, religion is going to determine how people will vote. In other parts of the country, in the urban centers of the country, the issues affecting the middle class will be an issue to vote. In the rural part of the country, the issues affecting the rural people will be an issue. In all of this, I'm saying that our worry should not be surprises. Our most important thing is let the will of Nigerians be reflected. And when it is reflected, I believe everybody will accept it in good faith, when you know that nobody had an upper hand in the election. The idea that the courts will be determining who rules us is something we should get away from. Nowhere in the world is that happening anymore. Recent elections around the world, there were no legal challenges.
Finally, yes. Mr. Chidoka, if there is anything that INEC did well, and your hope for 2027, what would that be?
Enter the results on the BVAS as you take a snapshot of the results. Enter it in the e-collation, and then post the EC8B on the web, like you're doing with EC8A. Once they finish collation in any center, upload the result from the EC8B. Because that's the only part where decisions can be taken to enter a result.
But we don't see EC8A digital.
The EC8B. Yeah. Yes, we don't see it.
Yeah, we don't see it. They only have access to it.
No, they after the collation there is done and is recorded, it takes time. They record every polling unit into the EC8B. We are saying snap it with the BVAS, create a BVAS for word collation, or use one of the beavers, snap it and upload it and share with us what made it to the EC8B. Because the reason why people talk about collation centers as rigging area is because there is no visibility on what happens in the collation centers. But once you see what happens in the collation centers in real time, then nobody will worry about going to court.
And I've said it before that the biggest places at the point to rig election are the RAs and at the local government collation areas. At the ward collation.
The local government is almost like just entry. But it's in the ward collation that decisions are taken.
People, when you enter the result that have come from the different wards at the local government, people alter the result on the...
No.
And so let me tell you what I mean.
Yes.
So you see 120, they put 0. In the total result, they put they easily enter figures other than
that's what happens at the ward collation center, because it is there that a call is made. It is there that a collation officer can say, this result is higher than accredited voters, I will not accept it. So he can cancel a result. He can alter a result at the point of EC8B. So my view is that if INEC makes that available publicly, then the way we have collected the results from EC8A, we will collect EC8B and we will see what made it to the final result.
Absolutely.
And by the time they go to local government and state, it will just be to enter the results and collect. And of course, if we start doing it electronically, we may even do away with local government and, over time.
Thank you so much.
I think this is progress, and Nigerians should take this as part of what we have struggled for in our democracy and push it forward to 2027.
I must sincerely thank you. Mr. Osita Chidoka, former Minister of Aviation and the Chancellor of the Athena Center. Thank you so much indeed for your time tonight.
Thank you, Shirley.